Good afternoon. I am Dr. Stephen Smith, and this is the initial recording for ITSE 2309 for the spring of 2020. The date of this recording is, what is this? This is 12:30, and it's about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, something like that. And let's see. Um, I will be talking about installing SQL Server 2017 Express Edition. Okay, first of all, let's stop right now, restart your computer. I know you're gonna restart all this video and all that stuff, but you're not that far into it, so let's restart. If you haven't restarted, restart now. If you already have, then we're just gonna continue. So, okay, presto, you've restarted, and now we're gonna go on from there. At this point, I'm gonna share the screen. Okay. We will be using Microsoft SQL Server version 2017 Express Edition. I know I'm reading it to you, but this is it. If you already have 2016, don't bother reinstalling 2017. It's close enough. It'll work just fine. If you have Windows 17, you're way behind the power curve. But you're going to have to use SQL Server 2012. You can use it, but you need to think about getting a new computer at some point. Okay, here's your URL. Go to this URL. If you need to pause the recording, pause it, copy that URL, go there, download the the install file. While you're there, let's go to this URL. It's another Microsoft.com, and we will download version 18.4 of the Management Studio. Again, you might have a slightly older version. If it's slightly older, it's going to be fine. While we're worrying about this, locate a file called createap.sql. It should be attached to the email along with the video. Put it someplace where it's going to be handy. We will be using it. This is the URL to a file that you might be asked for. This is the redistributable for Visual C. Excuse me. If you don't have this, you probably already have it, so you probably won't need to worry about it. But if it tells you to go to some URL and download Visual C, this is the file you need, and here is the URL to where you can get it. It's an easy install. Then after that, you have to reboot again. So I'm not going to demonstrate that. It doesn't take much. So here we go. We're first going to start with this one. Let's take a look at here are my files. Other is a subfolder. So I have my SQL Server 2017. It's this one. I have my server SQL Server Management Studio is this one. And here's my createap.sql. I know the word wrapping in there, but we don't worry about that. The first one I'm going to start with is this one. Now remember, I need to have restarted my computer at this time. So I'm supposed to be going from a clean restart, and the only thing I need to have running is this video. So you've probably got your internet browser and this video running, whether you saved it or not, I don't know. But that's okay. Don't be playing games or something while you're installing this. So I'm ready to go. Let's install him. Bingo, bippity bip. Okay. Do I want to allow this device to make changes? I'm going to say yes, I do. I'm going to select the basic install. Now, once I select this, there's a couple of them here. Basic install, custom I'm not going to do, but basic download media. I can download the media and this will download an executable file that I can use later. I hope I'm recording. I believe I am. I see it. Download the media will let me have an executable file. I'm going to select basic. This is the simplest of them. So we'll select basic and I have to accept the terms. Won't get far if I don't do that. The first one is where do I install it? This is the only thing we're going to be asked to do. And I recommend that you install it in the program files. It's a program. Click install, and I'm just about to put pause the recording and let this thing go. It's going to grind on it for another probably 12 to 15 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and pause my recording right now so we don't waste a whole lot of bandwidth. So pausing the recording. Wow, wasn't that exciting? What did I do? There we go. Wasn't that exciting? We have successfully installed. Notice the instance name is SQL Express. That we might want to remember, write down. The rest of these aren't. Oh, this is the SQL administrator. It will be different for you. This is my Windows user. Connection string would be important in the next class. This is where the files will be located, the log files. This is where the installation media are located and all of that jazz. Essentially, we are done. Everything is fine and we are ready to close. And yes, let's exit. Okay. Uh, by the way, well, we'll come back to it. Our SQL engine is now installed and running, but before I fool with it a whole lot further, I'm going to go ahead and install the SQL Server Management Studio, SSMS. So I'll double click him. It's going to be about as exciting as the last one. Yes, we do. And I'm just going to ask me, where do I want to install it? I'm going to say install. And while it's running, I guess I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording again because we're going to be watching it sit here and grind. So while it does that, I'm going to pause the recording. Oh, well, wasn't that fun? And so we have so we have installed the Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio. Let's back up and take a look at what we did. We installed the database engine, which is Microsoft SQL Server database. And that is now installed. Actually, it is running. And then the Microsoft Server Management Studio is the graphical user interface that lets us work with that. There are other interfaces we could use besides this one, but this is the one that lets us do it. Now, back in when you were using Microsoft Access, the engine and the interface were all the same. So you could use them, you just installed one thing. When SQL Server is kind of the big brother to Access, and we installed the Microsoft Engine and the SQL Server. Now, notice it's saying a restart is required in order to complete the setup. Yeah, it does. It needs to be restarted, and it should be restarted, but I'm going to go ahead oh golly, should I restart or not? It will work okay if you don't, I believe. It's recommending that you restart. I'm going to cheat and not restart. The problem is that and if you don't, you're going to have to come back to this point. You might want to make some, I'm going to go into the configuration. So I'm going to say close. Okay, I'm pretending you're restarting. If you don't, it will probably be okay. All right, let's go to our start menu. From the start menu, if I go up to, let's see, I'm going to find my Windows administrative tools. And let's see, the services. I strongly recommend that you right-click the services and pin it to the start menu. In fact, I put it down here on my startup bar. Well, I think I do. Whatever. Okay, services, I'm going to open it. Okay, these are the services that are running. I'm going to scroll down to SQL Server. It starts with an S, so it's SQL Server, SQL Express. This is the SQL engine. Okay, this is what's running. Now, there's an old joke about SQL. How much of your computer resources does a database need? And it's kind of a joke. The answer to it is all of them. So an SQL or a database engine is very profligate about using your computer's resources. It drinks your memory, it drinks your power, it uses your disk without worrying about anything else. Notice it is running. That means it is drinking your power. So think of it like this. Do you want to leave your car running in the driveway at night? You probably don't. This is why you have a key. This is why you turn off the engine at night when you're not using your car and then you go out in the morning. Wouldn't it be nice if we could just leave our car running and then we'd walk out in the morning and it's all nice and warm for us and we just get in and put it in gear and go? Yeah, but that's going to use a whole tank of gasoline. Same thing is true about this guy. SQL Server is running. It starts automatically whenever it starts. Whenever the computer starts, it starts. I'm going to right-click SQL Server, and I'm going to go to its properties. Okay, and it's startup type. Do you see startup type right here? I'm going to change startup type to manual. I'm going to say OK. Now its startup type is set to manual. Now, whenever I'm done with it, I'm going to go and I'm going to say stop. Notice now, SQL Express is not running. It doesn't say anything in there. It's not running. I've turned my car off for the evening. I'm done using SQL Server. I've done all my work for ITSE 2309. I am finished with this thing. I'm ready to go surf the web, chat with my friends, whatever I do. But I don't want this silly thing running and drinking all of my bandwidth. Now, when I want to start it, I can double click. And I say start. And now it's running. Now I can use SQL services. This is why I want to be able to control when it is running and when it isn't. So when I'm not using it, I'm going to stop it. When I'm finished with it for the evening, stop. When I'm using it again, start. The book does not cover this, but start it and stop it. When you want it, turn it on. When you don't, turn it off. Otherwise, it's going to really slow down your computer. Okay, so right now it's running because I'm ready to do something with it. Ready to turn it off. Okay, one more. Now that's how I turn it on, turn it off. Before I use it, I have to turn it on. So it's like starting your car. Before it makes sense to talk about put your car in gear and all that stuff, you have to start your car. Okay, now let's put our car in gear. I'm going to go to my start menu and I'm going to scroll down and notice that I have two recently added icons here. SQL Server 2017. We're not going to do a whole lot with this guy, but the tools, SQL Server Tools 18, remember version 18 was what we did. And oh, look at this, SQL Server Management Studio 18. This is our graphical user interface to SQL Server, to our database. Let's start him. SQL, there we go. Takes him a minute. He starts faster as we get going, as he leaves some stuff in memory, they all do. He'll start faster next time we start him. Pardon me, I'm coming down with a little bit of a cold, but I'm gonna be okay. Dee. Yeah, I know it's a long pause here, but like I say, as we progress and as we start him the second or third time, he's going to get a lot faster. I hope. I have a brand new computer too. This is my Christmas present. So, okay, let's go. Come on. Okay, bingo. Here we are. Now this is our login. And notice some things about it. Login, server type. Notice that this is the server name, and this will match the server name that was given when you logged in. Okay, the authentication. We're going to log in with Windows authentication. Windows authentication means that the Windows user is the owner of the database. So the Windows user who installed that database is logging in now. This is the system user. This is the administrative user. You can log in from other places, but when you log in with Windows authentication, that says you are logging in as the Windows user that installed it. You cannot be another, you can't change Windows users and log in here as Windows with Windows authentication. So this is one, that Windows password is one you have to protect, because basically a database server, it will probably be the only application running on a box most of the time. Now, in your case, this is your computer, but Windows authentication gets you in as the administrator. So you will jealously protect that Windows password. And we say connect. And now I am in as the administrator. I am the administrative user. Okay. Now, at this point, I need you to go into a different mode. You need to follow me very carefully. The first thing I'm going to do is to make some changes to the configuration of the server. Making some changes to the configuration of the server, and then we will restart the server, not the computer, the server. Okay, so I'm going to right click the very top level. Notice I have desktop, that's the top level. Under that, I have databases, security, server objects, replication, polybase management, and something else. I don't even know what that is. Okay, we're going to go to the very top level. Top level at the desktop, right click. Going to go to properties from the very top level, properties. Okay, Over here on the top left panel, I'm going to go to security. It should look like this. If it doesn't look like this, stop and figure out why. Server authentication. Windows authentication mode is what we're using now. I'm going to change that to SQL Server and Windows authentication mode. This allows you to have a username and a password. Okay. I'm going to set it up as Windows authentication, SQL Server, and Windows authentication. Now, if you log in with Windows authentication, you are the administrator. If you log in with anything else, you're just a plain old user. And we're going to say OK. Okay, look at it carefully. It should say SQL Server and Windows authentication mode. Does it say that? If so, click OK. Now, it says it will not take effect until SQL Server is restarted. So you're going to say OK. Now let's restart our server. We're not going to restart the computer. So let's see, what am I going to do? I'm going to right click and I'm going to pull down to restart. Restart the server. Restart. So you say yes. Yes. Stops the server. And restarts. Okay. So we have restarted the service. We've restarted that SQL server. And now this guy is running, and it will allow us to log in as the Windows administrator or with a username and password. Okay. That's task one. So I can check it. If I go to properties, security, it should say SQL Server and Windows. Just checking it. Don't need to change anything. Okay, the next task, we're going to create a database. We're going to create two databases. Okay. I'm going to create we're going to right-click databases. Excuse me. Right-click database, and I'm going to say new database. Excuse me, let's don't do that right now. Let's don't do that right now. Let's go to security first. We're going to security. Security, we'll come back to databases in just a minute. Go to security. Under security, expand him. Go to logins. Right-click logins and click new login. New login. We're going to click this one. This one is going to be SQL Server authentication. If you do not have the option for SQL Server authentication, your last step did not work correctly. Okay. Your login name. My login name will be SW Smith. Make your login name something like your first initial, last name, or whatever works. It is okay to shorten it. If you have a long last name, you may shorten it. You probably know how to type it very well. You may use, there's no particular security in having a long login name. You may make it as short or as long as you want it to be. Okay. Your password. Your password is whatever you want it to be. Your password must be uppercase, lowercase, number, and special character. And it must have at least 3 of those 4. And it must be at least 8 characters. At least 8 characters, and it must have uppercase, lowercase, number, and special character like a question mark. But it's okay if it just has 3 of those, it's fine. So my password is, I'll let you guess it. If you forget it, you can always reset it. I'm going to check enforce password policy. I'm going to uncheck enforce password expiration. Please uncheck that. Somebody always doesn't uncheck it, and then they have to change their password halfway through the semester, and it's a pain in the neck. Uncheck password expiration. Okay. Now, look at it. Does it look like this? With the exception of your name. Your username can be anything you want it to be. I don't care. I'm not telling you what to make it. Just make sure that you have SQL Server authentication, that you have a password, that you've used it. If it does not have 8 characters, it will not accept it. If it does not have uppercase, lowercase, a number, and a special character, at least 3 out of 4 of those, it will not accept it. Everything else is fine. Right now, we're going to leave our default database set to master. It's okay for now. We'll change that in a minute. Look at it. Does it look right to you? If so, you're going to say, okay. If we drop down, we will see our new user. If we need to change that user, if we forget our password, we can log back in as the administrator using Windows authentication and change the password. It's okay. We have the Windows password, so we are also the administrator. So that's why I don't really care what you set the password to. It's your business. You can change it. Okay. Now we have created our user. This is the user we're going to use all semester. We'll use the Windows user as we need to. We're still the Windows user. Okay. Now we will go to databases. Databases. Take a deep breath and follow me now, please. This is where somebody always does not follow instructions. I'm going to right-click databases, right-click databases, right-click, new database, new database. Database name. Okay, listen carefully. Your database name is AP underscore DB. AP underscore DB is the database name. The database name is this. If you couldn't see it over there, this is the database name, AP underscore DB. 5 letters. I want it to be that. If it isn't that, we're going to have problems. Okay, the owner of the database. You're going to make the owner of the database your user. When I say SW Smith, I mean the name you typed in as your user. My user is SWSMITH. Your user might be J Blow. Your user might be K Hong. Your user is whatever your user was that you created. So when you created a user over there, that is the owner of this database. If you goof that name up, there's going to be a problem. So the owner has to be your user. Your name is not SW Smith. You created a different username. Make it be your username. Okay. Do not click add. This is where it's going to be. You're going to click OK. So only thing you have to get right here is the database name and your username. That's the user that you created at the login part. Say OK. Go back one more. There is your database. There it is, AP_DB. I'm going to right-click databases one more time. New database. Okay. This database name is Scratch, SCRATCH_DB. It is like scratch paper. It is like a database that we are going to use for Scratch DB. It looks like this. If you mistype this, I am not going to be happy. Do not mistype it. All you have to do is type SCRATCH_DB. That is the name of your database. This database is one that we're going to use for general purposes. Again, the owner is you. SWSMITH, but you are not SWSMITH. I'm SWSMITH. You are your own name. You have your own name. So you're the owner of it. Whether you're at home or at school or whatever, this is yours. Okay. Notice that, well, let's go back to here. Notice that now I have two databases. Okay. So AP_DB, Scratch_DB. It is critical that you get them named thus. If you don't name them correctly, I will not be able to run your code because we have to agree on the name of the database. If we don't agree on it, then I cannot. If you decide to name your database Teetotally Humswoggle, then I cannot run your code because you have named your database differently. It must be named just like this. You must have two databases. One of them is named AP_DB. The other one is named Scratch DB. Important. Check it. If they are not named that, you can change them. Under security, remember security, back to security? When we were in security, what did we do there? We created a login. Let's drop down the logins. You created a login for your user. He or she now owns two databases. Let's go back to that user. That user is, my user is SW Smith. Don't know what yours is named. Don't care what yours is named. They don't have to be the same. I don't need to know what your username is. Double click him or click properties. This is, by the way, I could change the password here. Do not worry about it that this password is longer than you put in. It does that just to confuse attackers. Okay, we're going to go down to the very bottom. See, there's my username is SW Smith. Your username will be different. That's okay. Let's go down to the bottom, the default database. Now we have other databases. I'm going to change the database to my default database will be Scratch_DB. Scratch DB. My default language is English US. I think you can change others. There are others you could have there, but we'll just put it as English for now. But your default database is Scratch DB. And we are now finished with our configuration. Okay, so what should we have? Let's take a look at him. As we go through here, I'm going to right-click the server. I'm just going to check everything. Right-click the server, go to properties of the server at the top. Go to security. Does he say SQL Server and Windows Authentication Mode? Yes, everything's fine. No, change him to say that. Databases. Do you have two databases created down here? One of them named AP_DB. And if you look at the properties, let's see if I can. I'm not going to worry about that, but you should be the owner of those databases. So you're the owner of APDB, you're the owner of ScratchDB. Under security, there should be a login with your whatever you said your name will be. If your name is J Blow, that's fine. And if you go to properties, it should have your password. You won't be able to see your password. It should have SQL Server authentication. Your default database should be ScratchDB. Okay, check those things, because if they are not right, you're not going to have a whole lot of time to get it corrected before I'm going to start taking points off. Because I'm going to, as soon as I say, hey, wait a minute, you have misnamed your database. Okay, Scratch database is where we create anything we want to create just to see what we can do. We're just practicing. That's a practice database. AP_DB, or the AP, is the accounts payable database. This simulates our working database. Okay, gee whiz. All right. Now, at this point, you probably, well, we'll restart later. At this point, if I go to this, notice I have a connect and a disconnect. They look like little plugs. If this plug-in says connect, this one that says the X on it is disconnect. If I click the disconnect, I am no longer connected to the database. And now I click connect. Okay, authentication. I am now going to connect with SQL Server authentication. This will be the normal way that we connect. I am going to connect with my login name. My login name is SW Smith. Your login name is whatever you made it be. I don't know what it is. It's yours. Your login password is whatever you made it be. I don't know your password. I know mine. And I can say, I'm going to say remember password, because I don't like typing in my password every time. Normally, I would not do that with a real database, but I'm going to say connect. And now, behold, I am in. I am connected. I am ready to go wild, programming away here. This is my programming environment. This is my programming window. Oh, what do I do? No, don't have any programs yet. Don't have a database yet. Okay, I'm going to go to File, Open, and I'm going to open a file. Now, notice that I have Control-O. I can use Control-O to open a file. So if I want to do that, instead of going up there to Open File, I can just press Control-O over there. So I'm going to say Open a file. Open what file? Well, remember I told you to save a file called create AP, right? Remember I said save that file, create AP. Navigate to where that file, create AP, is located and open it. This is create AP. Before you run this script, create the database APDB. When you're working in the open lab, you'll need to create the database. But we'll talk about the open lab in a minute, or at some point here, not in this one. Right now, we're going to run this file. This is SQL. This is your first SQL file. Yes, I know it's a little complicated, and it's about 750, 800 lines or so of code. This will create all of your tables, everything you need for the AP underscore DB, the accounts payable database. So it will create a table called invoice archive, invoice line items, invoices, vendors, terms, GLA, global ledger accounts, and contact updates. And we're going to go along with this thing. By the end of this class, you'll be able to read this file just fine. But basically, once I get him open, I'm just going to say execute. See, execute. I'm going to say execute him. Bingo. And look, he's executing 3, 2, 1. Look at that. About 5 seconds, he executed 800 lines of code, and he says query executed successfully. If it's anything else, let me know, please, because I don't want any errors. I wrote that code. And I'd really be embarrassed if there were errors in it. Now I have a whole bunch of tables in there, and now I can go ahead and close that. Now I can go wild. For example, now let's run one just for fun. Let's go new query. So I'm going to run a query. I'm going to run a program, and my program is going to be select. I can make him bigger. Select vendor name. Oh, first thing, I'm sorry, I forgot something. The first statement, listen to this please. The first statement of every SQL program you write will be use, U-S-E, use, and the name of your database. This database is AP underscore DB. Now it might be, notice that the some of the red squiggles went away. It might be Scratch DB. So we have two databases, APDB, Scratch DB. We got to know the difference between them. From semicolon. Okay, why is that giving me trouble? The red should not be there. Let me go check it here. I'm going to go to my databases. I'm going to look at my tables. Do I have it? Vendors, I have the name correct. Columns, vendor name, VNDR. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, it's just being a pain in the neck. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to say IntelliSense enabled. I'm going to turn them off. If they start giving you trouble, you can get rid of them. Now I'm ready to execute it, and these are the names of all of my vendors that I have in the database, and there they all are for your reading pleasure. So this is our first SQL program, select from, and then where. I could say where the state is equal to California or something like that. And so we'll talk a lot more in depth about that. Right now, the objective was simply to get our database up and running. And we ran something, so just do select vendor name from vendors, and you should get something back. End of conversation. We are done. I'm going to close this window says, do you want to save the query? No, I'm not interested in saving the query. And I can close up this stuff. If I don't close it, it's going to disappear when I log out. I am ready to disconnect. If I click the X, I disconnect. I am ready now to close my SQL Server Management Studio. I can do that either here through exit, or I can just go up here and click the close button, and it will close just fine. One thing I could have done there in the Server Management Studio, let me go back to it. Notice that it's going to start a lot faster now than it did the last time, I hope. Before I log out of the Server Management Studio, I can turn off the engine from within the Server Management Studio. Notice he did start faster. Okay, now it's ready for me to log back in. If I go up to File, let's see, somewhere in here. Okay, I have to be connected. So I have to say connect. Okay, if when I'm connected, I click this and I say stop. Okay, this is drastic. It's going to stop the server. If I stop the server, I cannot restart the server from within the Server Management Studio because I've stopped it. So it's like stopping my car remotely. When I stop my car, I'm no longer connected to it. So I won't be able to start it from within this. There's no start option because I can't start it if I'm not connected, but I can stop it here. And it does stop. Boom. Are you sure? Yes. And he stops. Now there's no way to start him because you're not connected to him. Okay, the only way that you can start him is you have to go to your Windows Administrative Tools, and that's why I suggested putting this on your desktop, your services. SQL Server, SQL Server. Notice he is not running. And say start. When you say start, he's going to start. And then you'll be able to connect to him. So this is how you turn him on. If you just want to use this to start him and stop him both, you can do it both from the same place. And thank you. Now go away. And I believe we're about done. Everything is stopped. Your Microsoft SQL Server is stopped. You should have your SQL Server set to manual startup mode. And whenever you want to use him, you have to go start him. When you're done using him, stop him. That's just like turning your car on and off before, when you leave it for the evening. And I guess I'm going to see you guys on the first day of class. We will have our first day will be, God, when will our first day be? I don't know when our first day will be. Sometime in January. And I don't know, keep an eye on your stuff. And I will send you this file and the create AP DB. The nice thing about that create AP underscore DB is that if you totally hose your database, all you have to do is run that file again, run that script again, and you recreate your database. So you're really not worried about it. You can do anything you want to do in there. If you want to delete all your records, go ahead and delete them. All you have to do is run that thing again, and they all come back. And so welcome to the class. And I'll see you next month sometime. I'll get this out in the email right away. Hasta.